Hello, it's good to have you with us at this hour. I'm Daniel Che. It's a proud moment for Koreans, proud moment for the human race, actually. Grandmaster Lee Se-dol has done the seemingly impossible, beating AlphaGo after losing 3 straight matches in the game of Baduk or Go. Our Lee recounts how his back against the wall, finally scored a win against a computer programmed to learn, adapt, and annihilate his opponents, and how the computer seemingly broke a sweat and stumbled under pressure.
After what was the longest game yet, clocking in at 4 hours and 44 minutes, Korea's Lee Se-dol finally got his first victory against artificial intelligence supercomputer AlphaGo in their 4th historic match of Baduk, or Go as it's known in the rest of the world. AlphaGo was winning the game in the beginning, but after a number of original and creative attacks by Lee about halfway through, AlphaGo got flustered, and then it made a number of mistakes. Toward the end of the match, it seemed like AlphaGo was regaining its footing, but Lee kept gaining ground, and the computer made some more mistakes. Finally, after 180 moves, when its calculations show that the possibility of winning was less than 10%, AlphaGo conceded defeat.
If I had been the one winning 3-0, I would have been very upset to have lost this round. But claiming a victory like this, I couldn't be happier.
AlphaGo won the first 3 games in their best-of-5 game tournament. But Lee's victory is very meaningful as it shows that human intelligence has not yet been outsmarted by AI. 이지원, Arirang News.
Let's turn to a different story now. Korea's major political parties are speeding up their candidate nominations ahead of a parliamentary election just 1 month from this day. The process has been held up by infighting within each party, delaying nominations for districts caught in the crossfire. Oh Soo-young has the full story.
Korea's main political parties are rushing to finalize their candidates and nominees for an upcoming election on April 13th. The ruling Saenuri Party on Sunday announced its 5th list, naming 19 nominees. It also confirmed that party chairman Kim Moo-sung will compete for the candidacy in the primary for Junggu and Yeongdo district in Busan. Kim is involved in a factional feud, which had raised questions on whether he is able to gain the backing of enough of his fellow lawmakers to win a party nomination for his district. The party also announced its first round of primary results for 20 districts, confirming candidates for 18 districts, while the other 2 districts will have to narrow the field from 2 candidates to 1 in another round of polling. Meanwhile, the opposition, the Minju Party of Korea, is also holding a last-minute candidate screening session following internal conflicts. The party has completed the screening process for 194 districts, with 32 to go. It held its first round of primaries and telephone surveys across 18 districts on Sunday, with the results to be announced the next day. As for the minor opposition, the People's Party, it held its first screening round, and the list of nominees will be announced on Monday. This comes amid an internal dispute over the prospect of an electoral alliance with the Minju Party, which has delayed the screening process for areas in the liberal stronghold of Jeollanam-do. At a press conference on Sunday, party founder and co-chairman An Chol-soo reaffirmed that he is against the merger. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
A show of force by Seoul and Washington after North Korea's nuclear and missile test. A U.S. nuclear-powered supercarrier arrived in Busan on Sunday morning. Kim Min-ji tells us more about the latest addition to an ongoing Allied combined drills.
The USS John C. Stennis nuclear-powered supercarrier arrived in the southern port city of Busan on Sunday to participate in an ongoing annual military exercise between South Korea and the United States. The 100,000-ton vessel is the size of 3 football fields and is loaded with roughly 80 advanced aircraft. It is also the centerpiece of the U.S. Navy's Great Green Fleet initiative.
We are using energy efficiency measures like new technologies, updated operational procedures, and alternative fuels in the course of our normal operations.
The supercarrier will lead the USS John C. Stennis strike group, which consists of the Stennis, as well as guided missile destroyers, USS William P. Lawrence, and USS Stockdale, among others. Seoul and Washington launched the drills last week called Key Resolve and Foal Eagle, during which they aim to strengthen their defense cooperation against North Korea's escalating nuclear and missile threats.
Our focus is on deterrence. We're trying to deter such provocative acts. and the presence of the John C. Stennis and her carrier strike group is part of that deterrence.
The deployment of the supercarrier is one in a series of military assets the U.S. has dispatched to the peninsula in a show of force after North Korea's provocations earlier this year. After the North's nuclear test in January, the U.S. deployed a B-52 strategic bomber to South Korea, and in February, following Pyongyang's missile test, it dispatched the nuclear-powered USS North Carolina attack submarine. Washington also sent 4 F-22 stealth bombers last month. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The U.S. ambassador to South Korea says the new sanctions on North Korea should be the lever that gets Pyongyang back to the negotiating table. He also stressed the focus should be on implementing the sanctions before anything else. Kwon So-ah shares with us Mark Lippert's views.
Until any progress or willingness is seen from North Korea to come back to the negotiating table, the U.S. will keep its diplomatic strategy of hindering Pyongyang from developing its nuclear and missile programs by sanctioning the regime, according to U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Mark Lippert during a recent interview.
Our policy, especially with respect to the peace regime, North Korea remains unchanged. Denuclearization is our #1 priority. We are now working to implement the UN Security Resolution sanctions, and we remain in close coordination and close consultation with partners in the Republic of Korea government.
The foremost focus on sanctions was also stressed when the ambassador was asked about whether China's idea of a two-track approach to North Korea that aimed to conduct peace treaty talks and denuclearization talks in tandem will affect the U.S. in some way.
Look, we continue to talk to Chinese friends. Everybody from Secretary Kerry, Deputy Secretary Blinken, Assistant Secretary Russell have all been to China in the not too near past. And we continue to talk to the Chinese about a way forward and how we can resume six-party talks. But I think right now, in the immediate term, the focus is on strong implementation of the sanctions and making sure that sanctions are as effective as possible to drive the North Koreans back to the negotiating table.
While Lippert said it's too early to speculate on the synergy effects of the multilateral and unilateral sanctions, their efficacy will show in slowing and curtailing the regime's nuclear and missile development, and that they are designed to sharpen North Korea's choice in whether to abide by international rules or not. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
The former chair of the Commission of Inquiry on North Korean Human Rights has recommended setting up a panel of experts to study how human rights abuses in the communist state can be dealt with. Speaking at a conference in London on Friday, Michael Kirby also pointed to a need for international cooperation so that human rights violators in North Korea can be handed over to the International Criminal Court. To gain progress on this front, the commissioner emphasized the importance of keeping China engaged at the UN Security Council. For the first time in 3 years, Korea's wage growth rate has overtaken its economic growth rate. According to the Ministry of Finance and the Labor Ministry, the average wage at a company with more than 5 employees was roughly $2,500 in 2015, up by 2.7% from the year before. That's 0.1% higher than the 2.6% increase in the country's growth rate that year. That may seem good, but a closer look reveals that for 5 straight years since 2011, the figure had barely come close to even half of the economic growth rate. Some analysts point out that this is a long overdue development, and there have been too few returns to workers in the comparison to economic growth so far. They say the government must come up with more policies to improve the country's stagnant wages. A new generation of IT devices is making driving easier and safer. Whether you want a better view of your car's blind spots or want to keep better track of its internal systems, it's worth checking out the latest information and communications technology developments. Kim Mo-hyun shows us 2 new gadgets that could come in handy when you're on the road.
There are many factors a driver has to consider behind the wheel. Sometimes adjusting your rear-view mirror is not enough to check blind spots, and drivers often find themselves looking over their shoulders. As popularity grows for smart cars in Korea and overseas, a number of technologies are being developed to make driving easier. By looking at a video monitor, a driver will be able to see nearly every angle of the car's exterior with the help of high-definition cameras.
Many car accidents happen since the driver has to look at the rear view and side mirrors to check blind spots. But with the help of camera technology, such risks could definitely be reduced.
Drivers can also check on the state of their car's equipment with their smartphone. A device that monitors interior vehicle information connects to the smartphone through wireless technology, making it easier for car owners to know how all systems are running. At this age of the Internet of Things, the potential of how these smart technologies could develop seems boundless. Kim Mo-gyan, Arirang News.
With the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics not too far away, the International Olympic Committee is coming back to Korea to assess the preparations for the global event. The IOC team headed by Gunilla Lindberg will arrive in Korea on Monday. The group will start with a tour of the Olympic venues, media village and athletes' residences in Gangneung, located east of Pyeongchang. On Tuesday, the team will meet with local organizers to discuss the preparations for Olympic test events, venue construction, marketing strategies, and transportation plans. They will wrap things up with a press conference on Wednesday at Lakai Sandpine Resort in Gangneung. The IOC's next visit is scheduled for October 4th. Now for a quick look at the weather before we go. We should get ready to dress a bit lighter starting Monday here in Korea, and as the week progresses, you'll forget that it was ever winter here. Seoul will start out the day on Monday at 2 degrees Celsius, and Daejeon and Gwangju will be at 0. Then the mercury will rise all the way up to 10 in Seoul, and it will get up to 11 in Daejeon and Gwangju. But if you're in the capital, do be advised there might be a low level of fine dust hanging around to put a damper on your day. That's the outlook for Korea. Let's check out the weather conditions in your neck of the woods and around the world. That's all we could squeeze into this newscast. As always, thank you for watching.